fair and balanced.
News Talk Radio WOBM-AM 1160 and 1310 presents Townsquare Tonight. Your chance to speak with Jersey Shore newsmakers about the issues that affect you. Call 732-505-1160. Now from WOBM News, Townsquare Tonight on News Talk Radio WOBM-AM 1160, 1310, and WOBMAM.com.
It's World Oceans Day. Very timely in Ocean County as the beaches begin to fill with vacationers and day trippers. The ocean's health might not be uppermost in the minds of swimmers or boaters or fishing parties, and for that reason,
do you have $10,000 or
leaders
more
in the public and private sector allies this time of year? Stepping into the town square tonight is Helen Henderson, Atlantic Coast Project Manager for the American Littoral Society in New Jersey. And along with her, let's welcome in Dale Parsons Jr., Parsons Seafood in Tuckerton, family operation which is taking a large role in an oyster restoration initiative with Stockton University and the American Littoral Society. It's called Shuck It, Don't Chuck It. Welcome in.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You, Dale, are part of a giant effort here. And first I want to, anybody who's not familiar with you and has not read the scores of articles that have been written about your place in Tuckerton, tell us a little bit about the store. And your role in it, because you're not the first guy. This is a family operation.
Yeah, I'm fifth generation.
Fifth generation running that store.
Yeah. We've been there since 1909. At least that was our first tax return anyway.
Well, Java's treating you well then. You don't look that bad.
Yeah, right? So it started out as kind of like a hunt and gather industry.
Mm-hmm.
Go out in the bay, look for whatever you could find. Bring it in, unload it at our old clam house, which used to be on Tuckerton Creek, and now there's a replica in Tuckerton Seaport. We get paid that day. It was kind of like a self-driving kind of business. You know, just the locals in the town. Build your own boat, go out in the bay, find what you find, drop it off to my great-great-grandfather, and we would repack it and ship it off to Campbell Soup or whoever used it for whatever they were doing at the time. And it was the culture of Tuckerton back then.
Now you still purvey to the trade and sell over the counter too.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed quite a bit today. We have a few kind of hunt and gather clammers that still wander out in the bay from, day to day. But most of our product now is farm raised. We've gone from like the hunt and gather to either purchase juvenile clams and oysters and put them in the bay, or a few of us spawn them from scratch and grow them through a nursery system and then put them in the bay. And we keep the whole system to ourselves, so to speak.
Do you find that that's to your advantage as opposed to, going out and looking for them?
Yeah, it answers a couple challenges. I mean, back when you had 50 or 75 guys who would go out and find whatever they could find that day, you needed to sell everything, some of which was planted back in the bay and held for seasonal market, like chowders. We would sell in the wintertime. We didn't sell as many chowders during summer months back then. So we would collect a volume of chowders on our leases in Tuckerton Bay. And when the weather was foul and my great-grandfather needed to fill an order, we would send the same clammers in their same boats back out on our leases to harvest what we bought from them during the summer months, pay them again just to fill the order.
Now, in case you're just joining us, we're discussing the roots of an oyster restoration effort that's happening on the southern end of Barnegat Bay. There are other efforts that are taking place in the northern end of Barnegat Bay. I'm interested to find out, Helen, how you crossed paths with Dale and how he wound up becoming part of a project with Stockton University involved, and how this all ties into restoration of oysters down there and the recycling of shells. This is a big mesh you've woven here.
It is. I first became familiar with Dale's operation pre-Sandy. And he had a full-blown hatchery, nursery hatchery for the aquaculture business that he was doing. He could no longer harvest natural clams from the bay. He had to farm raise them, as he said. And we were doing a lot about the pollution issues and the water quality in the bay. And someone said, you should talk to Dale Parsons. And that was how I first met him. I had no idea that people were farm raising shellfish in Barnegat Bay. And we kind of have connected and kept in touch since then. Dale, being a lifelong bayman, is very interested in doing what he can to help, repair the resource.
Okay, so what is his role? Well, you can tell me your role. And how does it fit into your overall scheme of things?
So Dale's role is helping us conduct some of the research for the restoration reefs that we're doing. How it connects to the Shuck It, Don't Shuck It shell recycling project is that we're raising public awareness and implementing public education through people enjoying the harvest. So if you go to a restaurant and you're eating locally harvested shellfish, we want to tell you the story of how important that shellfish is to be restored to Barnegat Bay. We're teaching them that one adult oyster can filter up to 50 gallons a day of water. So if we are able to restore oysters on a large scale in the bay, they will help improve water quality. So we're taking it's basically like a restaurant to reef kind of program. So you harvest it, it goes to the restaurant, you eat it, and then they recycle it. It's no longer going in the trash. It's actually going to return and have a full cycle of life and go back in the bay to have more restoration. Oysters grow on them.
What were the numbers with regard to oyster population in the bay, and where had they reached, and that prompted this whole movement to restore those numbers?
Well, actually, natural occurring oysters in the bay right now are pretty much non-existent, as Dale could tell you. So it's a completely depleted fishery. So that's what motivated us to try to restore it to what it once was historically back in, when was the first major loss of oyster harvest?
Which
was mostly from disease.
Yeah. We made the mistake of bringing in seed from other areas, which harbored two different diseases, dermo and MSX. And different areas were infected at different times, depending upon who brought in seed from where, how hot it was with the disease, and the time of year and the water temperatures. There's a lot of factors involved there. Generally speaking, 50s, 60s era, that's when the oysters really crashed hard. And Mullica River, Barnegat Bay, Delaware Bay saw huge losses. A lot of people quit the industry. Most of them quit the industry. Families that had survived for generations, there was no way to make a financially viable business anymore with this disease pressure. So Rutgers has come a long way developing a disease-resistant strain. And there's, when I talk about disease resistance, it's kind of water body specific. Not every oyster that's quoted disease resistant is going to be as resistant in all different water. One is going to behave very differently from Delaware Bay to Barnegat Bay. So you have to be very careful on what you select.
Is that because of the composition of the water? and the underpinnings?
It's what they eat out of the water, the type of food they're feeding on, what they're filtering, the water temperatures, the water depth, the sunlight penetration, their day-to-day routine. It's just like every other animal in every other type of ecosystem. They don't behave identically everywhere you put them. They react to their environment. And the disease behaves the same way. The disease reacts differently to different environments. So in terms of, what happened with the oysters and why it happened, people were financially driven to bring seed in from other areas. And biologically, it could be assumed that it was a mistake.
So we are basically on a comeback path now. How does Stockton figure into all this?
So Stockton was actually the grantee from the Barnegat Bay Partnership, our National Estuary Program. As one of their focal points is to do oyster research in the bay. And we're going to be looking at a couple of different types of what they call setting and growing methods. And Dale can probably articulate that a little better than I can. But we're going to look at, as he said, disease resistant and also different methods of planting these shells and seeing which grows better and which one has a greater cost benefit to each method that we use. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the two different types.
Well, there's two ways to restore oyster reefs. One method is to collect a natural population of oyster seed, which had set by themselves naturally in an area that's known to produce oyster seed. Generally speaking, it's fresh water feeding into a saltwater body. You have a zone of that salinity regime that allows for oyster larvae to set year to year routinely.
Mm-hmm.
And what you can do is collect the oyster shell, put it in that area, and you'll collect spatfall or larvae that are free swimming in the water will attach to the shell that you put there. If it's there at the right time of year in the right conditions, it's a lot like every other form of farming. You need to put the seed in the soil at the right time. You need to put the shell on your seed bed at the right time. Do it properly, and in some areas the shell can be completely blanketed with juvenile oysters.
Mm-hmm.
You then allow them some time to grow, collect them, and then move them down the bay to grow larger and faster to produce that reef. The other way to produce a man-made reef is to collect the same shell, put it into a tank of mildly filtered bay water, and add the cultivated oyster larvae to that volume of water. And those larvae will then attach to the shell in a similar fashion that they do in the wild. And then you'll be left with a tank of shell with tiny oysters that are attached to that shell. You take that shell, put it out in the bay bottom, and you then have if they're hatchery oysters, you have a disease-resistant oyster reef.
Now, you have incorporated a couple of other businesses along Route 9 into this, including the Shady Rest. How do they figure into this?
Bob Popovic's the owner. They're celebrating 50 years. I've known Bob personally for about 25 years, and he is a famous fly fisherman, and I don't know that he labels himself this way, but he's a really good environmentalist, and he cares. We would talk a lot about the work that I was doing over the years, and I would go in for dinner, and this opportunity came up to do shell recycling and have him start selling local oysters and then recycling the shell. And he learned about what the benefits are for the bay and said, count me in, that he really wanted to be a part of it.
It's great that we have people that close to the ground. And, it's not just people who run a business, it's people who run a business with a conscience about it and with a kind of a, I want to call it parochialism, but it's understanding where you live. It's grasping where you live and contributing back to it. Is there a financial outlay here for you? Is there a financial benefit in here for you in the middle of all this? Or, you're just being a good guy?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I mean, the more I know about what I'm trying to do on, with the animals that I'm handling and selling every day, the more you know, the better.
Mm-hmm.
But having the chance to do the right thing, it makes a difference.
Dale Parsons Jr., of Parsons Seafood in Tuckerton, is with us, along with Helen Henderson. We're already at our first break. My name is Tom Mongelli, and it's Townsquare tonight, and we're discussing... let me look at that. I put this up so everybody could see it. Shuck It, Don't Chuck It, which is the oyster restoration project, the rubric for it down in Tuckerton Bay. And we are going to continue discussion, moving on to a few of the things that the American Littoral Society is doing now and in the very near future when we come back. And we'll be here right after this.
You know you're not sleeping enough, but what can you do? More sleeping pills? Not look at your phone in bed? Let's be honest. Why don't you do something easy to get the good night's sleep you've been missing, like getting a fresh set of sheets from Boll & Branch. Hi, I'm Scott Tannen. My wife and I founded Boll & Branch to make the most comfortable sheets you'll ever sleep on.
Luxury sheets can cost $1,000 in the store, but ours don't. They're only a couple $100 because we've cut out the 800% retail markup by only selling directly to you online at bollandbranch.com.
Everyone who tries Boll & Branch sheets loves them. Even 3 U.S. presidents sleep on Boll & Branch. Shipping is free and you can try them for 30 nights.
And if you don't love them, we'll give you a refund. No questions asked.
At Boll & Branch, summer is about having fun. Check out our beach towels, limited edition throw blankets made lighter and brighter for summer, and our classic sheets. Go to bollandbranch.com today for 20% off your entire order when you use promo code QUIET. That's 20% off right now at bollandbranch.com. Promo code QUIET, spelled B-O-L-L and branch.com. Promo code QUIET.
Are your federal student loans making life miserable? You may qualify to have your entire student loan forgiven with one free call. That's right. If you're a teacher, nurse, police officer, firefighter, or work for a nonprofit, then you may qualify to have your entire student loan forgiven. The Student Loan Pros want to give you free information on all the student loan programs that can help. And the sooner you call, the faster they can help. Get the maximum forgiveness, loan reduction, or consolidation available. Plus, find out in the first free call what you qualify for. Loan forgiveness specialists are standing by to answer all of your questions for free. Don't pay another penny in student loans until you call. If you have more than $10,000 in federal student loans, this free information could change your life. Call 800-226-0027. Find out how to wipe out your federal student loan debt. Call now. 800-226-0027. That's 800-226-0027.
Be a part of the conversation. Call now, 732-505-1160. Townsquare Tonight. News Talk Radio WOBM-AM 1160, 1310, and WOBMAM.com.
Welcome back, and in the Townsquare tonight with us is Helen Henderson, the Atlantic Coast Project Manager for the American Literal Society, and Dale Parsons Jr. of the family operation known as Parsons Seafood down in Tuckerton. And we've been discussing their role in a very big oyster restoration project that's taking place in southern Barnegat Bay. And I want to turn for a second, just before we get going, I do want to remind everybody, we're going to give the Lakewood Blue Claws all the time they want next week. They've got a lot of night games, so I'm not getting in the way. But stick around, because on the 20th is going to be Ask the Congressman. Frank Pallone will be here taking your calls for an hour. And then on the 22nd, Ask the Senator with Robert Singer. He's coming back for his second go-around. And you know him. He's got an opinion on everything. So we'll look forward to seeing you then. But let's talk about a couple of things you got going on with the American Literal Society, because there's an awfully big schedule you got for the spring and summer, starting Saturday in Sandy Hook.
Right. So Saturday, people are invited to join us for our annual Members Day. If you're already a member, it's free. If not, $20, or you could sign up for a membership and join us. We are expecting a couple of hundred people. We have a nice picnic lunch. We have shellfish and some beer, and we schedule walks. And it's just a really, really fun event. And we encourage everyone to come out and get to know us better.
Great. And you mentioned a while back a webpage regarding ocean planning. Can you tell us what the progress is on that?
Sure. So we started out saying, Happy World Oceans Day today. And last month when I was in with my director, Tim, we talked a lot about Mid-Atlantic ocean planning.
Yeah.
And the American Literal Society now has a website dedicated exclusively to Mid-Atlantic planning, Mid-Atlantic ocean planning. And it's actually, the website is midatlanticoceanplanning.org. And you can go there. We have up a petition that you can sign and reach out to your congressman to support the National Ocean Policy, which is the policy that actually keeps the Mid-Atlantic ocean planning process moving forward. And we all want a healthy and sustainable ocean for the future. And we're looking at the first draft ever plan for the Mid-Atlantic coming out the end of June. And there's a couple of important dates. There's especially for people who want to be involved There's a listening session planned at Monmouth University July 14th, and all of those details, as well as all the information that you could want to know about the Mid-Atlantic Ocean Plan, is on our website. So I hope everyone will, take a visit and learn more.
And the website to go to is?
MidAtlanticOceanPlanning.org.
.org. Okay,
Yes.
all one string.
Yes.
Now, friends, you may not have noticed it, but we did mention it a few times through the course of the year, and it's just about completed now. But there are a bunch of little projects that took place through the services of the American Littoral Society on a federal grant, if I'm not mistaken, to filter water that eventually winds up in Barnegat Bay, far from the bay. We're talking about places in developed areas along Hooper Avenue and Toms River, and among other places. And there are really some remarkable. Would you call them rain gardens?
Well, some of the projects are in fact rain gardens. Some of them are tearing out impervious coverage, so parking lots, and replacing it with porous pavement. And some of them are actually underground manufactured treatment devices that you wouldn't even know exist there, except you might see a nice new manhole cover that a machine's going to go in and vacuum and clean out. But they're all done within the watershed. So what you're talking about, Barnegat Bay has this 660 square mile watershed, and pretty much anything you do on the land is going to impact a waterway that drains to Barnegat Bay. Those are all the tributaries. So
Either the Toms or the Matita-Conk and everything that goes into that.
Yes, and so I've been working for the last almost 4 years now on multiple locations, as you mentioned, Hooper Avenue, Community Medical Center, another project at Toms River High School North and a private community behind it, and over at Bailey Golf Course. So all of these are reducing non-point source pollution in various ways, as you said, rain gardens and the other ways that I mentioned. And then now we're starting a new project in Ocean County Park in Lakewood, and implementing even more series of demonstration, what we call green infrastructure projects. So some of the lakes there will have floating wetland islands built. We'll remove a bulkhead and put in a living shoreline, and all of this is creating better habitat and improving water quality in the watershed itself, so before it even has a chance to run off into the streams and rivers that drain into the bay. We work in the bay. We're doing oyster restoration and helping to clean up the water that way, but we also move back onto the land and try to preserve the land that we have, and then correct the mistakes of the past that we've made on the land already.
Well, yeah. I mean, the further you get from the bay, the further you realize that you're still in the watershed, and everything that happens in there, ultimately affects that, as well as right where you're sitting. So it's great. It's really good that you're doing that, Dale. All the credit to you two, and to your 5 generations of family before you that led to this. Thank God they were tough, because they stuck it out and allows you to do this now. We have about 30 seconds. Anything you want to add?
Eat local clams and oysters. No matter who you buy them from, just make sure they're not imported from some other state.
Yeah, check. Ask. It's okay to check.
Legally, you can ask for the shellfish tag. Legally, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and most places, I think, are towing the mark on that. I think everybody gets that.
We'll be hosting a what we call a lunch and learn. It's a series that we do where people can come out, and we'll have one at Shady Rest, and anyone who wants to know a lot more about the project and exactly what's going on in terms of.
When will that be?
We haven't selected the date yet. We're thinking maybe mid-August.
All right. Well, stop by the Shady Rest, Route 9 in Bayville, and ask Bob, and he'll make sure it happens.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us tonight, you two.
Thank you.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Townsquare Tonight is a presentation of Townsquare Media New Jersey, Shore News Group. Our producer, as always, is Mark Anthony. Tom Tremblay and Bradley James provide the video and digital coordination. Our programming consultant is Steve Arnolino, and the director of Townsquare Media News Operations in New Jersey is Eric Scott. I'm Tom Mangelli. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the 20th.
This has been Townsquare Tonight, a presentation of WOBM News. To find out more about tonight's show and stay up to date on everything happening in your hometown, log on to WOBMAM.com. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
This is Marianne Levy, News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310, broadcast from the Preferred Home Healthcare Studio. From skilled pediatric services to adult care, Preferred does it all. Preferred Home Healthcare with feeling.
The Jersey Shore's news leader. Listen online at WOBMAM.com and on the Radio Pup app for smartphones and tablets. News Talk Radio.
1160 and 1310.